If you're raising funding for investors, odds are you'll be putting together an investor pitch deck. I'll be talking about what I believe are the 5 requirements for a successful investor pitch. And that's what we'll talk about in this video, and then in more detail in several follow-on videos. Hi, I'm Steve Morris, and I use this Startup SOS channel to provide practical how-to advice to first-time entrepreneurs. What do I mean by a successful pitch to investors? What does success mean in a pitch? Well, it doesn't mean you walk away with a check. That would be nice, but that generally does not happen in the first pitch. What success in my mind means is that you generate enough interest in the investor group that they want to hear more. In other words, you get the next meeting. That is a successful investor pitch. So, what are the requirements to raise your likelihood of reaching that opportunity to get that next meeting? Number 1, you have to cover the right topics. You need to cover the topics that an investor wants to hear about. Those are a little different than the topics that a customer would want to hear about. We'll go through a pitch outline and talk about the topics that typically an investor really wants you to cover in an investor pitch. Covering the right topics is part of the battle, but there's more, like having effective slide design. Your slides need to really support and not get in the way of the message you're trying to convey to investors. And I've seen a lot of slides that do get in the way. We'll talk about how to avoid that and what kinds of things you might think about in putting together specific slides in your deck. Right topics, good slide design, great start. You still need to do the right things to make sure that your presentation is, first of all, understood, and second of all, compelling. Now, understood and compelling, those seem pretty obvious. You'd be surprised how many investor pitches are not all that understandable and not all that compelling. So these are things that are important to work on. Next requirement for an effective, successful pitch is to be credible. There are some common mistakes that entrepreneurs make that result in them losing credibility with investors. We'll talk about what those are in more detail and give us some ideas on how not to make those mistakes so that you increase your credibility, not decrease it. Now, if you've done the things we've talked about so far, there's a good chance you've convinced the investor that this is a great opportunity. Now you need to convince them that you're managing the risk. You're doing the right things to bring the risk down to an acceptable level. And there are specifically 4 areas of risk that the typical investor is concerned about. Risk number 1 is the product risk. Can you build the product and make it work? Risk number 2, the market risk. If you can build the product, that's great. Will they buy it if you build it? That's the market risk. Team risk. Do you have the wherewithal to attract team members, attract the talent that you'll need to grow this business? And then finally, risk number 4 is the finance risk. Do you and the team have the ability to attract the investment capital that you'll need to feed the cash requirement in growing your business? So those are the 5 things I believe you have to accomplish to be successful, to get to that next meeting. Those are the topics that we'll dive into in a lot more detail in this series of videos. If you find these videos helpful, please click the like button and share the videos. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please use the subscribe button down in the corner. Any questions or feedback, use the comment section below. And follow this series for more information, more details on how you can create a successful investor pitch. Links to those as they get published will appear on this slide. Thanks for listening.